I'm not sure if you have to click OK or anything
Yeah,
like that, but
there we go.
so when I say your title, I'm going to say business advisor, certified Proctor Gallagher consultant.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll get started here. Thank you so much for joining today. I have the pleasure of speaking with Darren McDonald. He's a business advisor, certified Proctor Gallagher consultant. First off, Darren, can you tell me what that means?
Well, that means a whole pile of experience and hours put into training, getting certified as a coach, and hopefully delivering some value for somebody. That's what that boils down to.
How did you get into, well, I'm assuming business in the first place and then transition into that coaching role? What's your history on these things?
Well, for the past up until last December, before um, my best friend Pat volunteered me into this this new business. Um, I was a business consultant, and before that, I spent 10 years in media, and I was a sales director in media for radio and internet, and yeah, broke out on my own, and had some really good success working for companies from software to health to scaffolding to and everything in between. Because my ability to build sales systems and build relationships with people and basically go into small businesses with no boards of directors up until the last one that was a publicly traded company. It's like they hire me to make the money or save the money. And if there's none of the above in the column, then it's time to move on. But for the most part, it was going in, and sometimes the structure of the sales system wasn't wasn't very positive. It wasn't There was no flow to it. But the most important takeaway in my years of in being in business is people drive the business. And if you can grow the people, an inside out process, help them feel confident, help them feel worthy. Um, you'll get lots of miles and lots of success. And that's how I kind of gravitated into mindful retirement. Pat Clarkson, my partner, I've known Pat for about 20 years. We used to teach a sales class at the university here, U of S, the extension division. And she asked me she was a previous client of mine, in with my wife's company, Transformational Change. We're coaches and we do personal development for individuals. And I kind of look after that business side. Pat was a client. We shifted after the coaching program to accountability partners. Both of us wanted to mastermind together some ideas, and we did that for about 3 months. And then Pat came to the table with one of our meetings with this mindful retirement concept. Now, I had been in coaching for 3 to 4 years as well as doing the consulting. I told Pat, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to help you with the business plan. I'll help you with the website and the marketing and everything else, that visual identity that you need. And we'll have our accountability sessions every week. 6 months into this, she asked me a question that just stalled me like everybody. And she just said, so what do you think of retirement? And normally, I've got this cocky, half-baked response to come back with. And I said, legitimately, I can't see it. I literally can't see it. It's a black cloak. I can't see it. And she found that very interesting. And, being a forward progressive kind of guy. And I said, look, it's just not in the realm of possibility. Then we met over time, and more I got into this. And the feedback that we got back from people was, oh, this is needed. Well, why is it needed? Well, I don't know, but it's needed. They were feeling the same thing. They can't see the other side of the curtain. And that's tough. And we uncovered some things that really paralleled what I do for coaching for individuals. It tied right into identity and purpose and structure. And it's like, who am I? I have I have this career that I want to move up on, or I want to do something, but I'm stalled and I can't move. Well, it's all mindset. And we do a deep dive. We do a deep dive into limiting beliefs. What are the goals, and where you want to go. So getting back to mindful retirement, it just expanded. Like we had companies in Saskatchewan that had us present. We have two financial management companies, brokerage houses that had us come in and present. And it's you're in a pre-retirement phase, and you're going to move into your retirement. And if you think about it, and a lot of people don't think this way, is that on the other side of that bridge, that transition bridge, there's a whole lot of empty space in your structure. There's a whole lot of empty space with your purpose, your identity, which is basically the foundation to everything. And you volunteer, you're identified as this in the workplace, you do this and you do that. Then you retire, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, what's my purpose? What's my function? I had a really, really tough meeting at a conference one time. We had a trade show table, and I knew that this is so needed from our coaching standpoint. The gentleman came to the Mindful Retirement trade show booth, and about 70 years old, and he was chatting with us about mindful retirement, and what are you doing? Oh, I'm busy. Okay, well, there's a flag right there. You're busy. Is it fulfilling? And then we go into that discussion. But he said to me when he was leaving the table, he said, he just blurted it out. They took my name off the website. And I just saw his whole kind of confidence and that worthiness just kind of dropped. And I keep telling this story because this is about how it is. And I just quickly tie him out, and I said, hold it, get back here. Let's talk about this. How about you think about all the lives that you helped and improved in your workplace? How about all those birthday parties that you put on and you celebrated? How about that new onboarding that you did with those employees that absolutely loved what you did for them? Or maybe you showed them the new software application and how it ran. I needed to shift his thinking because shift from you're not a number. And just because your identity is tied to the brand of the company, you're more than that. And that was, man, that was the whole kind of forward motion for me that really kicked us into gear. And it just keeps changing after we have conversations like that with everybody.
That's powerful. It is very powerful because you can, even when you're telling that particular story, you can feel that person's pain that, they took your name off the website. They took a piece of your identity. Could be that the business has changed names with the new owner, and now you don't even have that as you see going down the street. Oh, that used to be, that used to be, that used to be. Where do you start with that kind of conversation? That's a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of regret that that person would have for selling their business.
First thing is that we got to get a handle on self. We got to sit down. We got to talk about this. As business owners, their identity becomes deeply intertwined with what they've built. And the business isn't just a career, it's a reflection of their vision and decisions and years of effort. And I really lay that down. But when the chapter closes, the question arises, who am I without my business? And this is where the coaching comes in. It's because we're more guides than anything. And we guide the business owner through a critical transition from ownership to a purpose-driven life beyond their business. And what that means is that we illustrate and spend time with all their strengths, identifying their strengths, what drove that business, and And what they need to understand is that here's the truth. Your business was just the vehicle for expressing those strengths. It wasn't who you were. And then it's like, this is how you showed up for the world with your business and that visual identity. And now it's time for a transition. And whether you're a business owner transitioning from a sale, or you're a mom just starting her new job, or you're a dad moving up the career ladder, or vice versa, or whatever. Change and transition is not comfortable for anybody. So we really got to get a handle on that. And we have a process that we work through for everybody, talking about, what's your core identity beneath your business? Legacy. Everybody's worried about a legacy. What's this? They buy the business. If they're smart, they keep the brand name. But for some, it's like, no, I want it to be, instead of ABC company, I want it to be CDF company. And it's like, well, my legacy was on that, what I just sold. How do I deal with that? And what is my legacy? And I'm always preaching, you have a living legacy. Let's get at it right now. Your legacy is now. Who are you serving? Who's benefiting? Let's get after that, because that's going to reflect on what you're doing and how you're doing it, right? Um, and basically help the individual really step into this next chapter. It's really unsettling, and for many business owners, their business is more than a source of income, man. And like I said, it's their extension of their identity. And we need to respect that it represents years of dedication, years of risk-taking, leadership, personal investment. And it's really a psychological shift for people that don't really appreciate, it can have a definite impact on their self-worth, their purpose, and their overall well-being. And you see the symptoms like real fast, all of a sudden, from 5 o'clock in the morning, getting up and getting after it with a sense of purpose. And now they're sleeping until 7. And now they're sleeping until 8. And it's like, no, that's not good. Dr. Phil comes on at 10 and the bar opens at noon. Okay, well, okay, good for you. But how long is that sustainable for? I played golf. We hear a lot from families of the sons and the daughters. And I was playing golf with a gentleman that worked at the mine, and his dad had a director role for one of the tribal councils in the province here. And 20, 30 years. And he said he retired, and he was, for this past year, he's been the most miserable individual the family's ever had to deal with. And I said, well, I like to dumb things down. And I said, here's how you can appreciate this. Your dad walked down the hallway in the office, and people kept coming out saying, hey, good morning. Yeah, get you a cup of coffee. And, how about that game the other night? Now he walks down the hallway in his house. There's nobody coming out of those bedrooms welcoming him and approving and his identity and qualifying and letting him know that, you're worthy of your identity in your role. And now he walks down the hallway, makes his own coffee, and it's a pretty empty space. And then, of course, you've got the challenges of cohabitating with your wife if she's retired. And my sister-in-law and brother-in-law are both teachers in Alberta, retired. And she said to me, she said, look, we have 3 floors in this house, pick one. So that's how they did it. That's cool. Yeah, that's really good. But why did you tell Henri to go to that floor? Well, he didn't have a choice. And so there's these different nuances in the relationships, right? And changes. But I truly believe that when we have our mindset solid about who we are and what we are, it really makes a difference. And it's a journey. You don't, here's a book, fill in the blanks, and it's a whole collective process of, helping people through transition. And through years of experience of dealing with people, and people drive the business. It's those owners and operators that feel entitled are the ones that go south. and that's completely about them. And you try and work through that, minimizing the silo effect, getting that whole team to work together. And if you're leaving your company and you've sold it and you've managed the transition, um, the best thing you can do is help the staff transition, and that it's okay, there's change happening. You're going to be safe, and everybody's paddling the canoe in the right direction. And so there's the transition for the departing ownership, but there's also responsibility, in my opinion, to help the transition with the staff.
You're speaking my language there as an employee group benefit specialist. But
Right.
I'll go on a couple of things that you've talked about. As certified exit planning advisors, we are taught when we go through the program that there are the three legs of the stool, right? There's the business, there's the family, and then there's the next. What are you going to do next? And we do put a lot of emphasis on that next. The blowback that I get very often, and I think it is a misconception or a misunderstanding, is that people think money will solve that next, that next will just work itself out some way if you're properly compensated. And I see you laughing, and so we are like-minded that that person who's been a misery for the last year for his family, or the person that has to pick what level of the house they're on, does it really matter at that point how much money is in the account if they themselves cannot cope with who they see themselves becoming in that moment?
100%. 100%. The financial planners and the brokerage houses that we did the presentation to, they didn't like the statements I was making in the beginning, but I didn't care. I really didn't, because this is a really serious issue about the mindset of somebody retiring, and uh, with love and respect, so much love and respect for the companies that we are now have a relationship with. In the beginning, the way society sees it, and I believe this to be true, is that um, the way it works is you have this bag of money and there's an algorithm when you're going to die. So here you go. And I just had this conversation with my 63-year-old cousin, and hopefully she doesn't hear this because I gave up her age. And she was confused. She didn't know I was doing this. She knew I was a business consultant and coach, but she didn't know that I did this with mindful retirement. And I was asking her, how did that go? And she laid it out. She said it was a really confusing process. The employer gave me this uh, bag of money. And then she said, go talk to your financial planner and then pick an option of what you're supposed to do with this bag of money. But then I said, like, Tammy, what's in the middle? Who helped you? Well, nobody did. I just had to go from here to there. And then we got into it. I helped her a little bit, but in the end, she saw the value in what we offered. She saw the dysfunction in what was, because long-term staff, even short-term staff, they have this loyalty in their heart. And they want, and you see it every time, somebody's leaving their job and they want to make sure that everything's cleaned up for the next person. And the severing from the career doesn't always go as planned. And that loyalty is kind of tarnished a little bit. And her point that she made was, I put in all my time and I served this company and I did it well. So where's the love coming back? Why aren't they buying this mindful retirement coaching for me?
Yeah.
And I read between the lines, she wasn't going to pay for it. So now we have another little interesting nuance there. And yeah, it's just everybody is in this transition phase, and and I mean the smart ones that know how to think through the challenge, um, they go blazing through, and they establish that identity. They get their purpose. They're up in the morning and they're making it happen. But sometimes they fall short on the structure because, as you know, when you're onboarded into a company, well, we were born with structure when we feed, when to go to bed, and everything else. And this is right up until our careers. And then when we leave our career, we need to build our own structure. So you think you've got your identity is strong, I know, and I'm getting after it. Oh, it's only 11 o'clock in the morning. Now what? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Because
know,
you're dealing with highly efficient people. These are high performers, A personalities in many cases, and to expect them to just walk away from what makes them who they are, which I think goes just even beyond their identity. We're going down to the core of their DNA, of their personality in of themselves. So they've latched their identity to their business. I have latched my identity to what I do in my business. I have. But the core of who I am makes that possible. And you said it in the opening, you do what will accelerate and be make you able to be who you are in the world. And simply because you sell that business doesn't turn it or doesn't change your personality type. You're still a driven person. So if 5 o'clock is the time that you wake up, which by the way, that is the time I wake up, retirement doesn't see me getting up at 10 o'clock. I would have felt at that point inside me, I'd feel like I already lost. I've lost 3 hours of the day.
yeah,
why
yeah,
did why did
yeah.
I lose 3 hours of the day? So it's not that I needed the rest. And I get into these conversations with people. It's not that I needed the rest and that I can sleep in. It's I'm always so interested in what I can do in the day that I would have lost 3 hours of productivity in whatever way, shape, or form that productivity lies. And so I think mindful retirement, what you're embarking on here, I do think it's an iceberg.
Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, we're redefining the purpose. You can't redefine the purpose unless you get a grasp on the self, and that's the self-image, and it's the worthiness of the self-image and who you are and what you are. We do. I won't get into it any very deep, but we get into managing our paradigms, the limiting beliefs, how a conscious mind and a subconscious mind works. And the subconscious mind rules the roost 24/7. And if you go to sleep on that subconscious mind, you get into this loop that every experience that you have is going to be fed with subconscious says, okay, well, based on your programming, you're going to feel this way, you're going to talk this way, you're going to do this. And the big one, here's the emotion that you're going to feel. And then that chemistry fills the body, blah, blah, blah. Well, if we don't stop and think, and we talk about intellectual faculties of, will, reason, imagination, and intuition and memory, we show the individual kind of what these faculties can do to block us out of these limiting beliefs, because it all boils down to beliefs and emotion. And if you can pull the emotion out, it's a lot. I'm not going to say it's a lot easier, but because the paradigm still holds that version of how you view the issue, but we can reconstruct the belief, which can affect an emotion, which can put you into a better state. And now your behavior changes, your performance changes, and away you go. I gave you that's a headline on about 4 solid days of work, but it we need to establish that purpose again. And it's not to replace the business, it's to expand the individual's identity with the same emotion that they felt in their business on the other side of the fence. That's all. And
I liked
um,
what you talked about with regards to the employees. Now, the employees being near and dear to my heart because that's where I focus on that succession planning. I have a lot of contact with employees anyway, doing the employee group benefit plan. And so part of my SEPA service back to the community, to the businesses that I work with, is to be able to effectively transition employees from one ownership group to the next ownership group. And time and again, and you hit on this, time and again during that transition process, all the focus is on the owner. And they don't consider until the last minute, and usually until the paperwork is signed and delivered, does somebody sit back and go, oh, yes, and we have these employees, and they expect them to naturally transition smoothly. Or they expect that there's going to be turnover in your key staff, which is just such a waste of people who have given their loyalty to this company. And so I like to work early with the staff members in the process and strategically align that communication so that we can effectively transition the employees. But I do think that the employees in this endeavor get lost in the shuffle many times, and people do forget that this change impacts their lives, and it creates that fear, and it creates the unknown, and it causes a lot of unnecessary anxiety.
I'm working on a proposal for a coaching client of mine that has his financial planning company. He's the owner. And as he's going through the program, I'm trying to instill, obviously, it's not, I can't tell anybody, you can't tell anybody, and it's not an outside in, it's an inside out, and it's a progression. And I said probably the best thing is if we're going to come in and we can work with your team of employees, and I think he has 6 or 8. I said, here's what we want to develop. Really, number one is having your team operate from faith and confidence with a focus on possibilities instead of threats. Like creating clarity of the goals and ensuring the daily actions reflect a success-driven paradigm. And that means not painting everybody with the same brush, but being prepared to go through with each employee, what are their expectations? What does loyalty mean? What are your, how do you feel about that? And just going in, and it's like when you break down the silos, as you know, we get everybody working together, it's a really, really interesting and improved dynamic. It's like running a hockey team. You got 20 guys in the dressing room, and soon as those guys figure out, you can tell them, but when they internally get that I'm playing for the next guy in that stall, when you get to that level, sky's the limit.
Absolutely. And there's really nothing to lose. If the expectation is that people are going to transition or turn over, or some people don't want to transition to the new owner, they're going to be gone anyway. But effective communication is more than lip service. It's our body language toward people. Our staff, our team, they know when something's up. And in my opinion, it is better to control and strategize the communication for everybody's best interest than to try to get all of this energy to hide, right? Or to parcel it out in a way. For what reason, right? What reason could you possibly have to not try to transition your staff effectively, because they are such a huge value in your company? They make up more than 70% of a company's value, because just as you said when you opened, this business is all about the people. AI doesn't buy from AI. There's no currency there, right? A computer doesn't buy another computer. A robot doesn't buy a lawnmower. We are people in need of other people and the tools that we can give one another.
100%. Yep. 100%.
What haven't I asked you? Because this is a broad topic. I don't want this to be a one and done. I'm really enjoying the conversation, but for now, time limitations, it limits us all.
For
What
sure.
haven't I asked you that would be so important to tell somebody who looks at this and goes, what is mindful retirement?
Um, everybody embodies a measure of fear. Everybody. And that's tied to their belief system, their limiting belief system. And the noisy roommate in our head, that ego, is always saying, you know what, you're okay. It's okay. You don't need to go after that. You don't need to improve that. You're okay. And we need to address where this comes from and improve our level of thinking. And so that's my question to the masses is, are we thinking? Are we thinking right? Because it all boils down to mindset. And I can show and leverage and instill how mindset works to improve a transition, to improve a change. But at the end of the day, it's the willingness and the commitment of the person who wants to make the change. We say we do, but our actions are not really showing that. And there's lots of questions. I've got tons of questions to ask in the exercise. Is I do a quick story on the person that wanted to go in to buy the red truck. They were so excited, and they get to the dealership, and they pick out the red truck. They go up to the finance department. I'm taking that red truck. Finance department hands them the paperwork, and it's like, oh, I can't sign this. What? Why can't you sign this? Well, because you've got some limiting beliefs on why people, not the money, but your mom told you that maybe anybody with a red truck wasn't worthy. Oh, growing up, right? Paradigms, limiting beliefs. And that's just a short, quick example of what we've got to get after because we've got beliefs tied to everything. And that's part and parcel of that self, that identity. And once you get that chunk kind of set up, then you can move on purpose. And don't forget about legacy. We wake up every morning. That can be a part of our purpose. What am I going to do today? It's not how much I left behind with assets, but how did I make somebody feel? Be thinking about that, you know? Did that answer the question?
It did answer the question. And what it's really told me is that as we think about succession planning and transitioning, we have to transition more than financially. We have to transition the people, but we have to transition the mind, body, and spirit as well. And to continue with what our purpose is when we cross that bridge. Darren, I do hope that you'll join me again and we can continue this conversation because
For
I
sure.
suspect the 30 minutes just is not enough time to delve into the complexity and the very breadth that this embodies for everybody who is going to be entering in at some point. We will all be entering in a transition. So I would love to continue the conversation.
Anytime, anytime. I've got a passion for this. So yeah, we could go for hours.